We're going to look at section 3 of chapter 4, which is area of a trapezoid. So we've been looking at polygons and we looked at triangles. So now we're going to look at a trapezoid. So you're going to write down in your notes 4.3, area of a trapezoid. You don't need to draw the picture. So we're going to write down notes. If you have questions along the way, write them down on the side. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and pause the video. So area of a trapezoid. So really, what is a trapezoid? So you write this down. What is a trapezoid? It's a parallelogram with only one pair of parallel sides. So go ahead and draw the picture. And you can see that this bottom line is parallel to the top line. So line AB is parallel to CD. But the other two are not parallel. So a trapezoid, to me, is kind of like a triangle. So it's kind of like a triangle with the top cut off. So we're going to calculate the area of a trapezoid. So go ahead, write this down. Area of a trapezoid. The area of a trapezoid, area equals 1/2 height times, in parentheses, base 1 plus base 2. So you're going to have to see trapezoids in many different orientations. So if you look at the picture that I have, so go ahead and draw it. And if I actually continued on these lines, this is how I would see my triangle. So if you recall, the area of a triangle was 1/2 base times height. But because this isn't quite a triangle, we're going to use a very similar type of formula. So we have 1/2 the height. So again, here's our height. So here's the height of our trapezoid. And then we're going to get the length of base 1 and base 2 and add those two together. So we're going to go through some examples. So let's try this one together. So again, we have our formula, and just like I did before, you're going to always write down your formula when you first do the figure. So my formula, so again, you're writing all this down. So you drew the picture. We're actually going to draw the picture this time. And you write down the formula. Area equals 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. So again, remember, this right angle is kind of our key, and that will help us figure out where the height is. So there's my height, which is 6. So I'm going to plug that in for my height. And base 1 or base 2, it doesn't matter. So our base 1 and base 2, here's a base and another base. So we're going to add those two together. And then to get our final answer, we take 1/2 the height, which was 6, times the addition of our two bases. So I'm going to simplify the math right away, and I'm going to take 1/2 of 6, which is 3, 5 plus 9, which is 14, then 3 times 14, which is 42, and we need to have units on here, so it is feet squared, because we did multiply feet times feet. Okay, I'm going to give you another example to help work these. Okay, so here's our second example. Again, look for that 90-degree angle to find your height. Following the rules again, I'm writing down my formula. Area equals 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. So I have found my right angle. Therefore, I know 5 is my height, so I plug that in. I find my two bases. So I have my two bases, 11.5, 8.5. Those are my two bases. I'm going to add those two together. Now, I tried to take a shortcut on the math, but 1/2 of 5 is not an easy number, so I left that. Because I know if I take 5 times 20, I get 100, and 1/2 of 100 is 50. And again, I need to have my units, which will be meters squared. Okay, so don't forget, the first thing I want you to do is write down your formula, look for your right angle to find your height, so then you can just plug in your numbers, follow PEMDAS, so add in the parentheses, then multiply, and whatever makes the math easier. If you divide by 2 in the end, divide by 2 along the way, as long as I can see your work. Okay, so now you're going to practice some on your own. Okay, so now you have some on your own. So again, you should see a text box over to the right, so you're going to plug in your answer once you get it. but I also want you to write down the formula. So first write down the formula, solve for the area, and plug in both the formula and your final answer. So you can do that for number 1. And for number 2. And again, it's very important that you put down the units for your answer. Once you're done, go ahead and progress through the slides. Okay, so now we're going to find the area of a trapezoid if we see it on a grid or on a graph. So again, I've written down my formula. Area equals 1/2 base, height, base 1 plus base 2. So I've kind of drawn in here to show you where you can get some of your information from. So I see a right angle, well, here and here. So that would tell you that then this line here is going to be your height. So to calculate that, you count the number of boxes. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Therefore, I know my height is 6. That makes this a base. This one side's a base, so that's 2. This other side's a base, so plus 1. So I have 1/2 times 6 times 3. I'm going to make my math easier. I'm going to take 1/2 of 6, and now I have 3 times 3. Therefore, my final answer will be 9 square units. Okay? Okay, so here we have a word problem. So we have the population in Scott, Virginia, so that's the red trapezoid that you see, is 23,200 people. How many people are there per square mile? So the first thing we're going to need to do is figure out the area of Scott, Virginia. And again, I'm going to write down my formula. Area equals 1/2 height base 1 plus base 2. So I look again at my trapezoid and I see this lovely right angle. So that tells me that the 20 is the height. There's base, there's another base. So I am going to write those in and come up with my answer. Okay, so we had the 1/2 height, and the height was 20 miles. Base 1 was 15. Sorry, I have these backwards. And base 2 was 38. Doesn't matter order of operation for those addition. I can do that, either order. So again, I took 1/2 of 20 to get 10. I added 38 plus 15 to get 53. Because my math is easier, 10 times 53 is 530 square miles. So I could do miles with a little 2 up there, say square. So there are 23,200 people in 530 square miles. You can just do the division there. And that would give you about 44 people per square mile. All right, so now you're going to do some of this math on your own. Okay, so here you are going to find the area of this trapezoid. Okay, so try to get the height, a base, and a base. Calculate that when you have an answer. Put it into the text box on the right. Here we have another one similar to the practice problem I gave you. So we have a trapezoid. So Smythe County, Virginia, the population is 32,000. How many people are there per square mile? So look at what we just did. Follow the same exact process. I have base 1, base 2, and height written on the map for you. You just need to plug in those numbers and get to work. Plug your answer into the text box on the right, and we'll do some math problems later in class or tonight for homework. So just a reminder, here's our formula we're using for this section. Area of a trapezoid is 1/2 height, base 1 plus base 2 And again, when you have that trapezoid, so to me, again, a trapezoid is kind of like a triangle that's been cut off. And you want to find a right angle to get your height. And then again, it doesn't matter which is base 1 or base 2. You can add those.